All right, I will call the February 12th, 2024 meeting of the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors to order. I will note that the board did meet in executive session prior to this meeting where we discussed 2 police personnel / injury issues, 1 police personnel issue / assignment to school, 1 zoning litigation matter regarding multifamily housing, and 1 police labor negotiation issue. With that being said, Mr. Neese, please call the roll. Here.
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 We will now move down into the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I will note that for the moment of silence, let's remember those individuals, not only in our Public Works Department, but in public works departments across the county as they prepare for this winter storm. And we'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If Mr. Chairman, if I may just clarify for the executive session, the issue related to the multi-family housing zoning issue that was discussed in the executive session has to do with an upcoming zoning hearing board matter from what's it, the Florida Park section of town.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Sikora.
And Mr. Chairman, I realized I failed to turn on my mic when I did the roll call. I would just make note for the record that all the board members are here for the roll call. So does your manager, solicitor, and engineer.
Perfect. With that being said, we'll move down to 5.1. Consider approving the agenda. Can I get a motion doing so?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Section 6, public comment for agenda items only. If there's any members of the audience or the public who have any public comment that they wish to provide with regard to an agenda item, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we will move down to section 7 minutes, 7.1. Can I get a motion to approve the completed / corrected minutes from the January 2nd, 2024 reorganization meeting?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? The only thing I'll note is that my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Neese, is that there were just a few positions that were not listed when the board approved them at the end of January. And so these are the complete minutes that we are essentially approving tonight.
That's my understanding.
Perfect. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 7.2. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the January 22nd, 2024 meeting? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Section 8, appointment to boards and commissions. 8.1. Can I get a motion approving the appointment of Matthew Godfrey as a trustee of the library board for a term expiring December 31st, 2026?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Section 9, reports. 9.1, report from the Township Engineer, Mr. Johnson.
Pull up that document.
Oh, I'm sorry. You look surprised for a minute. Then go to the second page when you have it. All right, so I guess I'm just asked to kind of give a little update on Greer Park and where we are and where we're going to be proceeding from here. Can you zoom in on that one? So I'm sure you're all, while she's pulling it up, you're all familiar with the master plan for Greer Park, which was prepared, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago. That's good enough. You know, it's going to get a little hazy. Where it was divided into various phases. Phase 1 focused around the most imminent part of the park, which is the focused around the pond, which is precipitated by the removal of the dam. And what's in the master plan called for removal of the dam, reducing the size of the pond to a smaller footprint, and then along with that, realigning the stream to what they refer to as the historic alignment of the stream. As of right now, currently along the edge and dumps into the pond. This moves the creek over towards the center of the area, smaller pond, and then it has the boardwalk and the walkway that goes all the way through with naturalized vegetated buffers along the stream. So that's the scope we're looking at. Now, beyond that, we started looking into more detail on how to implement what's on that plan. And the biggest, we know the dam has to come out, but when you remove the dam, the reality is that you have to deal with the change in elevation that goes with that. So if you can go to the first page. At the creek on the bottom side of the dam currently sits 6 feet below. You have 6 feet, the dam comes up, you have the pond, that's 6 feet difference in elevation. And then the creek continues up and it goes up and it's a total of 8 foot elevation changes across the park that you need to contend with. And what that means is to come up with that, if you're going to keep the pond, that means the pond is now at the same elevation as the bottom of the dam. And the elevation of pond surface of water is the same all the way across. So that means you make up the 8 feet in change of elevation between this side of the pond and up at the beginning of the park, which we can do with a series of step down ponds or pools in the stream. But the aspect that if you looked at the master plan, it was showing a pond with a creek running parallel to the pond and kind of connected on both the east side and the west side. The reality is the pond is the same elevation. You can't configure it that way because the stream is going to keep falling down in elevation. So on this side, you're going to end up with essentially a dam on the backside of the pond. So what you're seeing here is trying to work through the details on how we make this work. So if you bring the stream at its new alignment, we drop down, we get to the pond. The real difference there is that what was prescribed to be a separate little stream running next to the pond is just not really viable. So we still get to the same intent of it, where we have the stream come in and we have the pond with the boardwalk that can still be used, I believe, for fishing and still have the wetlands and reeds like they intended to have. The next aspect of this is the amount of the permitting. So far, we've gone through the phase 1 for the property. I've gone through the bog turtle review process and actually just submitted the first report to DEP for approval. The next stop, we'll get feedback on that, is to schedule a meeting with DEP. But in order to do this work in the stream is probably going to be the highest level of permitting, which would be general individual permit, which is approximately 9 to 12 months with DEP to permit that. So proceeding forward, if we continue forward, it's a design and permitting effectively through the end of the rest of this year, bidding into the winter, and then you'd be looking at construction in the spring, in the summer of 2025. As far as the costs of where we are, the cost estimate that went with the master plan, I believe it was just a little over $1 million with no contingency line item in there. With the slight adjustment, or with the adjustment for the last 5 years from now, and then a little bit of contingency, we're looking at it's about 1.3, 1.5 million is the current estimate for that phase 1 scope of work. Anything else here?
Eric, just a couple of questions and then I'll turn it over to the board. And then I know Mr. Pollock's here, who was the chair of the Greer Park study. And so I'll give him the opportunity to provide any comment as well. So just to be clear, with all that comment that you just made with regards to elevation change and everything, the pond that was shown on the master plan will still be there. You know, however you guys figure it out, you figure it out. But the pond itself that was approved on the plan, I know it's getting smaller, will still be a pond when all is said and done.
Correct. The footprint of the pond as identified on the master plan does shrink a little, I don't know, a third or in half. That pond will still be there. The logistics of how the stream and the pond interact would differ, but the pond would still be there relatively.
But for like a normal person who would utilize that park, with no disrespect, that's not an engineer, they would not notice. I mean, obviously, they're gonna see a difference of a change, but how you do the elevation change and all that's not going to impact the view of that, correct? Put another way, they're still gonna see a body of water.
Correct. You will still see a stream with a body of water
Okay.
attached to it, yes.
That's fine. Is there any questions from the board? Or I keep going? Where are we, Mr. Neese, with regards to funding on this?
Yeah, so the DCED, right? The DCED reached out to us, said our grant was actually due up in June. Obviously, with the information that we got from Eric, that was not possible. We would not be finished the grant by June, because not only did we had to be finished the construction by June, spend out the money. That didn't seem reasonable with where we were. So I put in asked for an extension of that grant to get us through until December of next year, December of 2025. One of the reasons why we're kind of moving on this quickly is because if the permitting takes as long as we're anticipating, we're going to be pushing even that date to be completed. And then the second grant, we're still working on trying to get an extension, which was the DCNR grant. No, Fish and Wildlife grant, which offered us about 275. The other one was 200. So we're looking at about 475,000 in grants. That means that the township would need, we have set aside 300,000 for this project already. We would still need to come up with approximately about $750,000 on this project. So that's still something that we're working through, trying to see if there's any other funding sources that we can apply for this year while we're doing the permitting to try to get that. But if we commit to this, that's what we're looking for on our end, which would be a total investment on our end of about $1 million.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Mr. Pollock, do you want to add anything?
So I did have an opportunity to speak on Wade Pollock, 108 Ridgefield Road, Chairman of Parks and Recreation. I did have a chance to speak with Eric prior to the meeting, and he's addressed any concerns I might have had with regard to the pond and the creek being separated. So, my concern was the silt coming in, but the meandering stream is still in place. That's going to prevent a lot of that silt from filling the pond up. So I think it'll be a much cleaner body of water in the future with the current configuration that he's shown us tonight. So I have no real concerns. I think it's pretty much as we envisioned the master plan to be. And the other thing I wanted to ask was, can we install the playground area? Can we develop that in 2025 if we had the funds available to do that? Would this be an impact to? So there's a playground that's going to go over here.
Yeah, Wade, my intent was to work with Eric to do that. George and I have talked about it. We feel like at least some of the playground needs to be put in at that time, whether we do 100% of it, but at least have a start. We got that much done. We want to get that, if it's not done right in 2025, early 2026.
Okay.
So that we would feel like the park was starting to feel like the park that we were looking
Yes.
for.
That would be phase 2.
I actually think it's phase 3, but yes.
Okay.
But I think we're going to jump ahead and try to get phase 3 in
Okay.
as we do. George and I have talked about the importance of getting some park equipment in that location.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. That's all I had.
Thank you very much. Okay,
I would just note for the board on the park equipment, right now, we had already set aside $75,000. The board had done that over several years. I think, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And then last year you set an additional 25,000 aside for playground equipment, and you're setting 25,000 this year aside. So George and I had talked that we would put all of that towards the initial playground equipment at that location.
Any other comments, Mr. Neese, or any comments from the board? All right, then I think if everyone's fine, we'll just jump to 11.5, which consider giving the township manager and township engineer authorization to move forward with the bid package for the Greer Park Revitalization Project. Phase 1, the estimate cost will be $1.5 million. Do you need a motion on this, Mr. Neese?
I think it would be helpful to at least have direction, knowing this is what you want us to do,
Okay.
and that we can get moving, because it is going to be an expenditure of engineering funds.
What is the desire of the board?
So moved.
Any board motion to give authorization to the township manager and township engineer to move forward the bid package was made by Supervisor Robert Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I believe your direction has been given, Mr. Neese. Thank you. Now we'll move, I believe it's your report, Mr. Neese, 9.2.
Yes, and I'm going to defer my report until, as we get going in the meeting, there, you'll have questions, I'm sure. Most of my things relate around things that are on the agenda.
If I can just ask a question for, it's either going to be for you or for Mr. Sharrett, so I'm happy that George is here. There is, so for the longest time, I was always told that PennDOT, that there is a law or a regulation that PennDOT does not allow for trees to be planted in medians because of the clear zone. If a car was to lose control and they come into impact with the tree is not designed like a sign is to release from the base, and instead has the ability to create more damage to the vehicle and potentially greater damage to the human. Just like the ADA, when that went into effect, the Americans with Disabilities Act, it didn't require when that law went into effect with regards to the trees, that everybody started ripping out medians, but when there's a substantial improvement made to a roadway, those obstructions had to be removed, which is what we see happening with the PennDOT project on Westchester Pike with regards to the cherry blossom trees. A neighboring municipality, it's been brought to my attention, is putting in trees in their median. I know that here in Newtown, we've been very, and I appreciate, we've been very strict with those PennDOT regulations. Specific example is political signs in the median during election season. Personal opinion, I think it looks trashy, and I'm happy that we do not allow that. We adhere to that here in Newtown. Question that I have, again, it's either going to be for George or anyone else. What is, I'm not saying that that township's doing anything inappropriate, but what is the guidance? I'm sure we're all going to start getting questions about this because we've all kind of towed the same line.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that, and if something's changed, that's fine. The laws change all the time. But where are we with regards to that guidance and what's the path forward with that?
My understanding is the law's not changed.
Okay.
The PennDOT standard is still not to put trees in medians. Without saying what the other municipality has done, I don't know if they've actually gone through PennDOT to do what they've done.
Okay.
So, you know, we could request it from PennDOT. My understanding, though, is PennDOT's position has not changed. Trees do not go in the median.
Okay, and Mr. Johnson, you're the engineer. I see you shaking your head. Yes. I'm guessing in the different municipalities that you and your firm have represented, which is vast across the southeast, that guidance is your understanding as well, because the original guidance came from our prior engineer. You guys are a different outfit, so I'll give you the opportunity as well to opine on that.
No, that would be consistent. I can actually give you this from two ends. Some other municipality that's in the area, the trees that you're referring to, there are people who are not aware. They just put the trees in. That's just kind of how they operate on that one. But I can give you actually a specific example that we did somewhere else, actually recently out in, my colleague did out on Route 202. That was a project where they actually installed landscaping. When I say landscaping, it is between 12 and 24-inch grasses in the median. It did not include, and actually were not permitted to install trees within that median. The only place they did install them was where they were next to a PennDOT information sign behind a guide rail. The PennDOT's official standard is any tree over 4 inches in diameter caliper is considered a tree, and that is not permitted in the median.
Okay,
Unless it has a guide rail.
The only, in this location, the project they're doing, there was a guide rail which deflects vehicles
Mhm.
and directs them back onto the road. And they're meant to safely move vehicles along. The standard and the requirements that PennDOT operates under are actually consistent with the federal standards, and they're all related to motor vehicle accidents that occur when you hit a tree.
And then what happens if you do put the trees in this other municipality?
Mhm.
What happens then? Does PennDOT come out and find them, or is it if if God forbid there's some kind of accident or something and something happens to someone, is the township then liable for it? There's always consequences, right? So
Correct,
what
and
happens?
the most likely, I can tell you based on that, yeah, even this other project I was talking about where they installed various landscapes in the median, that was an agreement was signed between the municipality and PennDOT, which puts the liability on the municipality for the work done within the median. And generally, if something is done not in accordance with PennDOT standards, they from the legal end would then come back to the municipality.
Big flower boxes.
Yes,
Can't do that either.
you
correct?
can't put big flower boxes. Yes.
Is there something smaller than the size you described, which that we could put in? that
So
would
they
make
actually
it-
have, in the guidance explicit, has, trees are not permitted, but there is very specific guidance and given to landscaping that can be installed. And it's landscaping, it's more of grasses and perennials. It's, you can beautify the median with various plantings, but if they get hit, they're just plants that get pulled over. They don't resist the impact. But there are all sorts of grass plantings that potentially can be used in median strips. When I use grass plantings, I mean plantings of various. I play more with the dirt, not, I was told once that I landscape like an engineer by our landscape architect, so.
I think it'd be worth it to look into
Yeah.
putting something in if we're taking out,
well, we're not, PennDOT is.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
if something's being removed in our township, then we have the ability to replace it with something, maybe not similar, but at least, that would beautify the area.
Are there
we consider-
illustrations in these regulations? Do they give you illustrations in the regulations or no?
I don't know if there's I don't know if particularly, they give descriptions of the type of plants that can be used. I know at various locations where they have been installed. I don't know if they have specifics. But there's probably areas you can point to. I mean, as far as the median strip we're looking at out here, which is currently in flux. Yeah, that project hopefully over the next couple of months would be reaching its conclusion after many years. And there might be the opportunity, if you're so inclined, to look at what types of plantings or what can be done to beautify the strips through there. That is not necessarily trees.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Real quick, any other questions from the board? The only thing I would add to that is since this project, understanding it's a PennDOT project and some of it's related or a good portion of it's related to the town center project that is here. Maybe that's a conversation to see if they would be willing to assist with, decorating the median, if you will. I know that there are some plantings that they put in originally, but maybe that's a conversation. If that conversation has not occurred yet, Mr. Neese, we continue to have with them.
I will tell you a concern that we have, and I understand the disposition from the board. George and I have had a couple conversations in regards to the new width of the median. having somebody out there and having to maintain that is going to be a little bit more of a challenge, just because to do it safely at the time. And so that's our only concern. And so whatever we put in, we would want to do something that's very low maintenance in regards to that, because we don't want to have somebody out there doing a lot of weeding when you have traffic coming both directions in that way.
And excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I just went on PennDOT's website and they have descriptions, some of the things that they've done in the King of Prussia district, as far as what PennDOT allows. It looks like, it's limited to, as Eric had said, plantings and to your point, we don't want something that is kind of like an annual. I think you'd want something that just or it doesn't need a lot of care.
Correct.
I'm sure that there are people who know their business better than I do as far as that's concerned. But I think if we can find maybe Eric, maybe if within Pennoni, if someone has done median plans along with the PennDOT.
Actually, I have one that was recently just done. It was all the way through. I have the plan, the agreement, like everything. We have
Okay.
the actual plans that were submitted to PennDOT and approved.
That's something we'd want to see.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Suggs, you had your hand up. Paul, real quick. There you go.
Good evening, 4727 Mill Hollow Lane. My name is Paul Seligson. I'm very interested in the median conversation. And to a degree, Ms. Lightcap found already the language. I would like to see the language of what is the guidance by PennDOT, because I'm getting different, I'm receiving different messages from them. I mean, they consider, when I asked this, now this is a couple of years ago, they said there's no prohibition on trees, but there's a certain prohibition on caliber. But they didn't say that trees were forbidden entirely. I mean, I'm willing to go with the flow. I am working with Steve Mastardi, and I would like to meet with you, Eric, because I've been, he's already spec'd a lot of different kind of junipers and low things that grow up to 12 inches, but not higher. Drought resistant, low maintenance, no maintenance. And that's exactly, I understand from Ms. Bernice, the concern about safety. I get it. And so what I would like to be part of is the conversation in terms of helping suggest things that could be considered to go in there. I'm also, I mean, I haven't asked Newtown Square and Bloom yet, but if there had to be an opportunity where Newtown Square and Bloom might put some money to this, that would make sense to me, because this is sort of in their, that comes in their little bailiwick, so to speak. And I'm very interested in grants that might be available for this. And maybe between the township and Newtown Square and Bloom, they can make the match, and then we get a grant, and then we can do it up. Roughly, I'll just give you the big numbers from Steve Mastardi. When I understood it was going to be 12 feet wide, which it no longer is, 100 feet long, 12 feet wide is $1,400 of plant material. And it's probably the same to do the installation. So you're looking at roughly $3,000 for every 100 feet. That's at 12 feet wide. Now the width has gone way, way, way down. So you can, but that just gives you an idea of what you can think about of how much money this is going to take. And I've been asking Equus, how much are you contributing to this? And I can't get an answer. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. We'll make sure that that information that Mr. Johnson referenced, again, he did say that it's the caliber of the tree. So we'll make sure that that information is provided to you for Newtown Square and Bloom to move forward with it. All right, any other questions from the board? Great. George, before we get into the bills, what are you here for, so I can get you out of here before you start plowing? What numbers are you here for?
So I am here for 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, and 11.4.
All right, so let's start with the
Yeah.
11.1. Consider the purchase of the new F-350 utility truck at a cost of $80,270 to replace the F-450 that was wrecked by fallen trees. The majority of the cost will be paid by insurance, and the balance will be paid by Public Works Vehicle Replacement Fund. Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? Pretty self-explanatory. Anybody?
Yeah, the only comment I would make is I just want to be clear that the insurance company is not going to give us 100% reimbursement on the truck because there was a depreciation of the value of the truck. So that's where we'll be on that.
Okay.
I think we paid roughly about $70,000 for the truck initially. Is that right, George?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. So, and the new truck's at 80, so we have at least 10. We have a deductible, I think it's 5 or 10,000 on the truck. So I just want to give you an idea of kind of the numbers you're looking at.
George, why are we going to a smaller truck?
Because there is a truck that's available now, and it's a 350 instead of a 450. It's still a dually. And Harry had determined that we put some springs on it, and it's going to be beefy enough to do everything we need it to.
And how did the tree fall on the other truck, on the job?
It was, yes.
All right.
They were, he was out actually cutting a tree down or cutting a tree, opening the road. And while he was doing it, he had stopped and he heard the actual tree come on top of the truck and he had gotten out of the way fortunately and didn't get hit.
Okay. Any other board discussion? All those, do you want to, well. Usually, this should have been you weren't at the beginning of you weren't here at the beginning of the meeting, so I'll let you talk on this one. But do you want to have a public comment, Paul? Good.
On Selection 4727 Mill Hollow Lane, I really want to thank, this is a comment of commendation to Public Works, to George Sheritz and Harry Robinson, because this all happened on the street that I live. And it happened on January 14th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. My neighbor texted me, a tree fell, we all lost power. A tree fell. And just on a chance, I texted Harry Robinson because I wasn't sure in Florida Park. I know that's where he lives. And I just wanted him to be aware. It was a Sunday afternoon. Suddenly he drives in within 5 minutes later. So he drives in, he never drives out very much. And then I realized that there's a lot of traffic. And then my neighbor, the same one who said, I see the tree where it fell and cut the wires. So she said, now there's 2 trees that have fallen on top of the township truck. And she had pictures of it. Well, with that, of course, I go out and there's George, there's Harry, and they're assembling a whole gang of public works people to remove these 2 trees that have fallen on top of the truck. Harry had started to saw the tree that fell across the Mill Hollow Lane, and it got stuck. The blade got stuck, so he had to get a wedge. And while he was getting the wedge is when these trees fell. And it, you know, as Mr. Nieses pointed out, I mean, we're very lucky that nobody was injured. I mean, this was really, really tricky. So PennDOT had said originally they had sent me an email, you're out of power at 1 o'clock, it'll come back on by 3. Of course, it never did because first of all, they had to lift the logs, the trees off of, Public Works had to lift it off, then Esplenda had to come by and clear the whole lane and start chopping things up. And finally, Pico came in around 5:30 and they worked until 10 o'clock at night. And I am so appreciative of George and of Harry. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, now you can go back to it.
All right, so the motion was made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 11.2, update with discussion and possible direction regarding the purchase of the 2023 leaf collection truck with swap loader and roll-off dumpster that was part of the DEP 902 grant submitted and awarded in 2020 and executed by the state in 2022. Due to production delays, the truck is now scheduled for completion after the DEP grant agreement window has expired. The discussion and direction will consider 1, cancellation of the order completely, completing the purchase, and paying the additional $110,303 portion of the equipment that remains incomplete at the time of the grant expiration. Mr. Sharretts.
So this is unfortunate. This was a 2020 grant that we got for the leaf collection truck, 1-person leaf collection truck, as well as for a tow behind leaf collection vehicle. We did get the tow behind back a year and a half ago and put it into use. The 1-person truck had been delayed. Initially, International had identified that it was because of COVID backups and production delays, et cetera. We had purchased this through U.S. Municipal, CoStars. What was scheduled to happen was International was building the chassis itself, the truck body itself. Then it was being delivered to U.S. Municipal, who was installing the swap loader and some of the other attachments to it. And then it was scheduled to go down to ODB, Old Dominion Rush, who puts on the leaf collection equipment. and then it comes back. The DEP considers it done. Once it's completed and brought back, they see it, then the bill could be paid and they would do their reimbursement for it. Again, it was a 90% reimbursement. So unfortunately, International kept delaying what the delivery date was going to be. So then US Municipal wasn't able to do their portion, ODB wasn't able to do their portion. On Thursday, we received word that the delay was finally done, but now that the truck was being delivered for US Municipal to do their job, then ODB to do their job, the completion date was going to be after the DEP agreement, the grant agreement was going to expire. Because they had already extended that agreement one time, they were not going to be extending it a second time, although we did ask. DEP identified that there's a number of other municipalities in the same boat, but there wasn't anything they could do about it. They weren't going to extend the grant further. So we are in a position right now. US Municipal has not started the job. They could use the chassis for somebody else. So we can cancel the order, which is the primary recommendation of Public Works. We can cancel the order, be happy that we got our tow behind trailer. And if we choose to, the next time there's a grant round put in for it, we could theoretically go back to the DEP and ask if we can pay for the part that's completed at the expiration of the grant. And then the township pick up the portion of the incomplete part, which would be all the leaf collection equipment. That would be about $110,000. It is an option, which is why I bring it to you. It's not the option that we recommend to you at this point. We would say that
So George, your recommendation is to cancel it.
our recommendation is to cancel the order, yes.
All right.
Okay.
Cancel.
I
Oh,
want Rich to look at the contract, and I'm gonna go back after US Municipal and tell them they have 6 weeks, they can complete this truck. This is bullshit.
So then I will get
And
Mr.
if not,
Sikora
we
yeah.
And first of all, the truck's valuable. Even if you give it to them, it's valuable. There's a lot of value there because anybody else who waits for one's waiting 3 years for one. So what are they gonna pay us to leave? This is totally been mishandled by them, not you. And they can make it right. They choose not to work overtime. That's up to them, but I want to see what the contract says and I want them to pay us to walk away if we're gonna walk away.
So I will share all the documentation with Mr. Sikora and he can take it from there.
so with regards to this motion, it sounds like the board's, with that caveat, the board's in favor of canceling it. Is that fair to say? Paul,
Mhm.
Catherine?
I'm not in favor of canceling for free.
No, I
wanna
think
get paid.
yeah, I think Mike's right. We should look.
I mean, this truck's a very valuable commodity because it's a specialized vehicle.
You wanna-
Okay, so
You can't
and
get one anyplace else for another 3-4 years.
so I would.
They want to discuss, okay, no, sorry. go ahead.
So I would just,
You're right.
I would just caution
You're right.
that the truck is at this point not assembled at the next stage. So there's not the commitment from us is not in existence right now. I want to make sure that Mr. Sikora is able to look at it before US Municipal might get to the point where they would start something and then claim that we have to take it. Right now, we do not have to take it because they haven't met their target. As long as he can look at it pretty quickly and make a determination.
I haven't seen the contract. Typically, if you want to get the difference, you want to get paid for the value of the truck, you actually complete the purchase. If you don't want it anymore, sell it on the open market and you pocket the difference, right? That's the typical way. There might be some sort of a delay damage in there. There might be some sort of a damage for the cost of obtaining a truck elsewhere if that cost is escalated. That's a breach contract. I don't even know that has to be a provision in the contract, but you know, I doubt that there's a provision. I haven't seen it. I doubt there's a provision in the contract that allows us to collect the value of us walking away to them.
Yeah, no, but here's the problem, George. You go to order one of these again, it's gonna be another 4-year problem. It's not gonna be, this is not an off-the-shelf thing. If you need a dual steer truck, it's gonna be, it's like a unicorn, okay?
Yeah.
So we're gonna realize that, I don't know what the savings is to have this truck versus sending one guy out versus 3 guys out. I don't know.
So,
There's
and
savings too.
yeah, this truck was, and obviously we're very disappointed at having to even bring this to you. We want to make the best decision on behalf of the township. The truck had very specific uses. There were opportunities in cul-de-sacs. There were opportunities at the earlier part of the season and the end part of the season that was going to be enhanced benefit to the people that we were picking up leaves from. But again, we will bring that to Mr. Sikora and let him look at everything. It's not something that's going to adversely affect our leaf collection normal operation. It is an enhancement we were trying to bring. We were only going to pay 10% of the cost of it. Unfortunately, the time ran out on it.
Okay. I think you have your direction. All right. And your last here for 11.3, correct? So consider accepting the staff recommendation to extend contract number 2021-02 mowing, maintenance and leaf collection services with Dan Kelly's Landscaping by 1 additional year. The contract permits an extension in 2024 for the bid price of $86,433 for mowing and landscaping, and the cost of $31 should be at the cost of $31 per hour labor for leaf collection assistance. Oh, actually, and you're right. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lycap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you,
Thank you.
George.
Then
and good luck.
11.4.
Oh, you're 11.4 as well? Can I get a motion to consider authorizing Newtown Township to re-advertise the request for bids for the Bartram Covered Bridge Timber Truss and Foundation Repair Project on behalf of Newtown Township and Willistown Township? 3 separate projects will be bid, one addressing the stonework, one and repointing of the piers, one addressing the structural rehabilitation itself, and one addressing the exterior siding. If any of the 3 projects can be accomplished by obtaining 3 written quotes, that will be pursued.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lycap. Any board discussion? I'll just note real quickly, and yes or no, the reason why we're going out for rebid is that the original bids came back extremely high, way out of what both townships budgeted for. Both townships have agreed to do this again, which is why we're here today, correct?
That is correct, yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Get some sleep and good luck tonight.
You are all kind. Thank
Thank
you.
you. We're gonna keep on that kind we're gonna keep on that kind streak, and we're gonna jump down to public hearing so we can get our stenographer out of the way. So Tom, you let me know when you're ready. We can get a moving, I should say. I will note, so I will open up the hearing at 8:09 on February 12th, 2024 for agenda item 13.1, which is the text amendment to the Newtown Township zoning code, deleting section 172-88.b.3, which will eliminate R5 uses in SU1 districts. I will now turn it over to our solicitor, Mr. Sikora.
Yes, sir. So this was an ordinance that was presented to you at our first meeting in January, where it said to advertise it for a hearing for this evening and to forward it to the planning commissions for review. So the scope of the ordinance is that our SU1 districts, they're for primarily for office type uses and some other type uses by conditional use. But it also has a provision that allows any use in R5 as long as it complies with the R5 district provisions. And R5 is housing for the elderly. So it's essentially that provision is allows housing uses in the SU1 districts. And the proposed ordinance was to take that provision out and just leave SU1 more consistent with the general character of the uses in the SU1 districts and not have that extra clause for housing for the elderly. So it removed that. It was forwarded to the Delaware County Planning Department early in the month of January. I think it was January 5th. It was forwarded to the Township Planning Commission. Township Planning Commission reviewed it, recommended approval. The Delaware County Planning Department has not had the opportunity to review it yet. That's scheduled for review February 15th, 2024 at 4:00 p.m. However, the ordinance provides that you have to give the county and local planning departments 30 days to review it. They've had 30 days to review it, so you don't have to you can wait for their feedback, or you can enact it without their feedback. It was advertised in the Delaware County Times for this evening. Both Sorry? Okay, oh, okay. Thank you. Oops. It was advertised on January 22nd and January 27th. So that's within the parameters of what the MPC requires. It was made available for review in accordance with the MPC. And here we are with a court reporter here for a public hearing. So the idea would be to listen to any residents, or landowners, or stakeholders in the township that wanted to have any input on this. Not see anyone present for this evening, so you can have a discussion on the record if you want on the record as part of the hearing. So the hearing is open, and nobody being present, you can discuss it. You do not have to deliberate on the record, because the way we advertise it is you're going to have a hearing to have input on the ordinance. So you can ask any questions of your administration or me. You can talk amongst yourselves. You can go off the record and vote, because the way we advertise it is that you're at your regular meeting following the hearing, you're going to vote for adoption. You can also wait, if you wanted to wait, you could wait until after the Delaware County Planning Department looks at it, get their feedback, and we could just hold the record open and do this in 2 weeks, or you could do it now. It's up to you.
Okay, what's the direction of the board? How would you like to proceed?
I think my opinion is we should vote on it tonight. You want to, I don't know what's more advisable, going off the record, or staying on, but either way, I think that we should approve it tonight.
Any other comments? You want to make a motion, Supervisor Chalice? Mr. Sikora? We stay on the, do we need to go off the record, or, I mean, I guess I'll note that there's no members of the public present. So there has, no one's here to provide any input on this.
Clear identify for the record the specific ordinance we're talking about, right? It's ordinance number 2024-03, an ordinance to amend the code of Newtown Township, chapter 172 zoning, article 19 SU1 special use districts, repealing section 172-88 E3 to eliminate R5 uses in the special use districts, and I already explained. So yep,
Isn't that 2024-02?
what I said.
03?
It says 20, it says 02 on the agenda.
Okay, well, I have it reversed. I have 2024-02 as being an ordinance to amend the commercial districts, take out the housing.
All right,
So I mean, just change, we could just change the, fix the number.
we can just change the number.
So ordinance number 2024-02 is an ordinance to amend the code of Newtown Township, Code of Township of Newtown, chapter 172 zoning, article 19 SU1 special use districts, repealing section 172 88B3 to eliminate R5 uses and special.
And that's going to be 2024-03, correct?
02.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to Supervisor Chanlis.
No, just read. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-02 to amend the code of the Township of Newtown, chapter 172 zoning, article 19 SU1 special use districts, repealing section 172-88.B3 to eliminate R5 uses in special use districts. And specifically, the Code of the Township of Newtown, Chapter 172 zoning, Article 19, Section 172-88 is hereby amended to repeal and delete Section 172-88.B3 in its entirety, such that no R5 uses are permitted in SU1 districts.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Chanlis, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. As the solicitor noted, there's no need for us to deliberate, but I will ask if there's any board comment. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All is opposed, Motion carries unanimously. I will just note for the record that this hearing on ordinance 2024-02 will be closed at 8:16. And we will now move to the next hearing. So I'll open up the hearing at 8:17, Tom. To consider text amendment ordinance to add to a definition of accessory dwelling unit to section 172-2 and to delete the existing section 172-78.0 residential restrictions and replacing it with a new section 17-70.0 entitled accessory dwelling units to permit by special exception only single-family accessory dwelling units in C1 districts. Mr. Sikora.
Thank you. So again, this ordinance was, a summary of this ordinance was published in the Delaware County Times on January 29th, 2024, and February 5th, 2024. Both of those are, timing is within the parameters of the municipality's planning code. It was made available for review at the County Law Library and the newspaper where we published this, and also here at the township. And we've advertised it for a hearing for this evening. And the purpose of this ordinance is simply, this was as presented to you again at the first January meeting of 2024, where you directed that this be published for a hearing tonight, and you also directed it be forwarded to the Planning Commission of Township and the Delaware County Planning Department. The purpose of this ordinance is, up until now, residential uses in our commercial district, our C1 district, has been allowed by special exception, right? So it means it's permitted use, that you have to go before the zoning hearing board to get approval, make sure you meet our special exception criteria. The purpose of this ordinance is to remove that general allowance of residential uses in the C1 district. Doesn't completely eliminate it, it just restricts it significantly and just changes the nature of it. So what it says, so now you can't come in by special exception and just get housing at any location in our C1 district. What we've done is we've defined an accessory dwelling unit, and essentially it's when you're within a commercial district, if you're an owner, manager, or employee of a business at that location, you can have a separate spot to live at that location. It's defined so that it doesn't overlap with the commercial use. So you can't, if it's a bakery, you can't wash yourself and take a bath in the bakery sink. You have to have a separate designated residential area that complies with all the other codes of the township for fire and health and everything else. But it allows a single accessory residential use associated with any commercial use within the district. See if there's anything else worth talking about. Oh, and of course, so, and we took out that definition of residential restrictions. Which 172-70.0 was the section of residential restrictions, which actually allowed all those other residential uses. We just removed that and replaced it with the accessory dwelling unit section. Okay, so that's the purpose. That's the way it was advertised. It was made available. I don't see anybody here from the public to talk about it. So just like the last one, it did go before our planning commission here at the township. They recommended approval. It went to the Delaware County Planning Department. Early in January, it was the 5th. I believe it was the 5th of January. Their meeting again is not until February 15th, Thursday, but they did have the full 30 days that the NPC requires that they have it before you enact it. So you have the option of acting it now or waiting for the ECPD.
All right.
Hold the record open and vote next meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sikora. Just like with the last one, what is the direction of the board?
My suggestion is the same with the last one. I think we should approve it tonight.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2024. This is gonna be 03. It was 02, now it's 03. In accordance to the amend to the code of the Township of Newtown, chapter 172 zoning, article 1, section 172-2, add definition of accessory dwelling unit and article. Was that, let's see, 15C1, commercial districts, section 17270. 16C, sorry. Residential, delete the existing section permitting residential uses by special exception, replacing it with new section 172.70 entitled accessory dwelling units to permit accessory dwelling units by special exception as a customary accessory use to certain permitted uses on premises.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. I will note, as the solicitor said, that there is no members of the public present. I will ask if there's any board comment. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All is opposed, motion carries unanimously, and I will close this hearing at 8:22 PM.
Tom?
Tom, you have a great night, all right? I heard your foot tapping, Tom, so I wanted to get you out of here, all right? I heard it, Tom. Yeah, I heard it. All right, now we'll get back to our regularly scheduled program. We'll go to section 10.1. I've reviewed the bills and I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 bills on check register A dated February 12th, 2024, totaling $32,295.72.
Second.
Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All is opposed, motion carries unanimously. Again, I reviewed the bills and I'll make a motion to ratify the 2023 bills on EFT register dated February 12th, 2024, totaling $3,812.82.
Second.
Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. I have reviewed the bills and I will make the motion approving the 2024 bills on check register A dated February 12th, 2024, totaling $516,522.52.
Second.
Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We will now move down to 11.6. New business, consider giving the township manager and township engineer authorization to move forward with the bid documents needed for 5 stormwater projects in the following locations: 22 Fox Chase Circle on Route 252, Hansel Road, Water's Edge, Boot Road Shoulder between Phillips Lane and Goshen Road, Valley Forge Road Shoulder. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Chanlis, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? Mr. Neese?
So just so you're aware, we have some dollars from ARPA that need to be spent by the end of the year. And we had you as a board had set those dollars aside for working on stormwater projects. That is the reason why these 5 are listed the way they are. They are listed in order of priority as we see it as the staff. And so this would be our recommendation. We would start with the first ones, get everything put together, get it out to bid. Based on what the dollar amount is, would determine whether or not we did all 5, but we would use as much as, we would go until there was no money left from the ARPA funding. So that's kind of the direction that we're seeking your direction from you. First step would be to prepare the bid documents and do a little bit of design on a couple of those so that we could do those bid documents. But other than that, we would move forward. The first 2 are mostly repairs. The next 3 are more of a design. So get the first 2 out, get the repairs done, and then get started on the design.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself because I am on Hansel Road and I'm right across the street from where this work is scheduled to begin.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Roberts. Is there any other board discussion or questions for the township manager? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All is opposed. Any abstentions?
1.
So the motion carries 4-0 with 1 abstention being Supervisor Roberts Lycap. 11.7, consider approving the staff.
Just one quick thing. Since you're abstaining, I just need an email tomorrow
Yes.
stating
Mhm.
that you're abstaining from it.
To Suzanne, the email to Suzanne, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
11.7, consider approving the staff's recommendation for the following capital projects: 1, Drexel Lodge sewer connection; 2, Gable Park water cooler; 3, the following roofs: Township Building, the garage next to the ambulance trailer, fuel tank, lean-to, paper mill house. 4, Drexel Lodge as follows: replace the roof on the pavilion, repair to the walking bridge. 5, Bartram Bridge renovation. 6, Gable Park basketball court resurfacing. 6, Newbie Park basketball court. 8, speed feedback sign. 9, Gable Park turf field. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Actually, consider, yeah, okay, so the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Mr. Neese, can you go through these, please?
Yeah, so I'll try to go through them relatively quickly, just in the for time, but if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer any questions you have. You know, I'm not in any hurry, but I'll just so you know what they are. So Drexel Lodge has the 2 bathrooms. With the SORC project complete, we would be required to hook up. This would get us hooked up. We would like to do that project first, get that done before people start using the park for the summer, and we would have to tear the park up at that time. That's what that project is. We've budgeted for it. I think we budgeted about $30,000 of what we think it would take to hook up to the sewer line that's there. And I think that our staff is going to do that. So I'm not 100% sure, but George thinks his team can actually do that project. The second one is right out here at Gable Park, which is right behind the township building here. We have the bathrooms and we have the kind of concession stand, but we think that it would be helpful and was put in the budget to actually put a water cooler there where people could fill up their water bottles, encourage people not to bring plastic bottles on campus. So that would be an opportunity there. Again, that's something we'd like to get in before the summer, you know, people start using that. So that's why those are 1 and 2. Following, we had kind of during the budget process talked about the need for the roof on this building. It's actually 2 sections of this building. It's basically from that wall, or where the demise, or not the, where the folding wall would be going that direction, is a kind of a pitched roof. There's a flat roof that kind of sits right back behind all of that. And then the garage where the ambulance sits, that particular roof. And then there's a small lean-to that goes over the tank, and there's a place where the public works stores some trailers and stuff like that, just out of the main weather. That actually needs to be taken down and rebuilt and put a new roof put on. So that's the ones here on site. And then the paper mill house, which we've also talked about. What we would like to do is go out and get the bid. I know that the dollar amount's been in question, but let's go out and get bids. Let's see what those numbers are, and then we can make a decision to move forward. Drexel Lodge Park, we had gone out for a grant. We found out recently that we did not get that grant. The grant was to replace the roof on the pavilion, to replace the boardwalk or the walkway that goes across the dam, and to replace the gazebo. At this time, we're recommending just leaving the gazebo alone. The township staff is going to just do some minor repairs to it to make it safe and continue to go forward. But we do need to get the roof on the pavilion to keep the pavilion structurally sound and not have any rot. And the walking bridge that goes across really does need to get done. George's team thinks they can do the roof. They do not think they can do the walking bridge. They would want to bid that out. It's way more involved. There's piers that actually go down and things like that. So that would be bid out. Bartram Bridge renovations, I think you all are kind of aware of those. We've talked about those several times already this year. In fact, you just authorized the next steps on that a little bit earlier tonight. That would be that project. Again, that's a joint project between us and Willistown Township. Gable Park basketball court resurfacing. Gable Park, that's the one that's just right out here again. That you approved, I think, at the end of the last year to work with the Parks and Rec. They're going to do some painting of a certain kind, but we need to get that sealed, and we want that done before the end of the year.
And to confirm, that's just going to be the township logo now, correct? That we're not moving forward.
Putting is the seal in the center circle, correct?
Okay, I had not heard that.
That's what
So,
my understanding was.
okay,
That's all we're going to approve.
Okay, I have it. So
Well, let's not
we will
get-
do the rest of the court as it is today.
Let me say this, because Supervisor San Francisco wasn't on the board at the time, but the discussion originally occurred with the Parks, with Parks and Rec for a
Yep.
mural. The board approved a mural on there. There was concerns from residents with regards to the mural. Conversation, that I believe, I thought everybody was looped in on it with, Mr. Pollock, was that it was just going to now just be the township logo in the center court.
Okay,
That's where it was going to be. So I just want to, I don't want to come out too hard on that, but that's I appreciate the support that they put into that.
sure.
But that's what the direction was before Supervisor Partridge left the board in 2023.
Okay,
I would just make. I would like.
okay. So I just want everybody to understand, that's fine. But to do the tennis courts, we're gonna make it look just like it does today. The only difference would be the seal would be in the center.
Basketball.
I mean, I said,
Not
I meant basketball, sorry. But no. Well, I'm growing it all, right? But anyway, my point being, I just want to make sure everybody understands, we will repaint matching what's there today, basically. So the only difference would be that the center would be the seal. But I just want to make sure everybody understands, we are going to be repainting the entire court in doing that. We also are going to repaint the basketball court down at Newbie Park, just so everybody knows Newbie Park. I think it's North Line that goes in there, is that right? North Line. It's kind of my understanding is it's fixing the surface and then painting. It's not a complete resurface, like tear out but it gets leveling and move forward. That's my understanding. Speed feedback signs, these speed feedback signs, that's easy for somebody to say, are located on Goshen Road and on Gradyville Road. The one on Gradyville is by Langolan Lane. If you know where that is, that comes out and it's a spot there. There's a blind spot that the people coming down off of Langolan cannot see the folks coming from the Edgemont side. And so what this sign would be is kind of like a flashers to remind people to slow down and let them know if they're going over the speed limit, just so that it makes them think about what they're doing. That was what the recommendation from PennDOT was. It doesn't do anything more than just recommend that they slow down. And the same thing would be on Goshen Road. There's a curve that goes down. I actually think it curves to the left. It's past where the school is, and further down, as you're going down the hill, there's that curve. The lady that lives on the curve has complained that people have left the road and been in her driveway or in her rocks and towards Malin Road. There's a spot there. And again, the sign would just be remind people that there's a curve and that they need to slow down at that location. And so that's what PennDOT had recommended. Our engineers looked at it. That's what's recommended by him. And then the final one, probably the one that's been more of an issue that we've been looking at. And when I say more of an issue, the conversation's been, what do we do there? Do we go back to regular turf field, or do we keep the artificial turf field? Is out here at Gable Park. We are in a spot now where the field is starting to buckle again, and we are concerned about long-term safety, about people playing on it. And so it is our recommendation to at least get a plan together, put it together, and have you vote on it. All of these would come back before you, with the exception of maybe the first two, in that those are already in the budget, and those are pretty easy to move straight forward with. And if our team is doing them, I don't know that we need to, bring you costs back, because I've already told you what they were. But the other ones, once we got a bid, it would be back before you. You would vote on it prior to us taking action. But this is our 10 projects. I know you've seen a multiple list of capital projects. These are the 10 that we're committing to try and get done in 2024.
Pricing first, and then we're back and determine.
Yeah, I would never move forward. I mean, particularly like the township roofs, that's gonna be greater than what we could just go and do anyhow. You would have to approve it. For the township building here, the walkway for the bridge, we'll get pricing for you for the pavilion, but our team intends to do that. Bartram Bridge is gonna be a bid process. The basketball courts, both of those, we're doing through a Co-Stars program, but I'll make sure that George brings the price back before we actually take the steps forward. Speed feedback signs, those we have to go out, will be a bid process, and the turf field would also be a bid process.
Any other questions for the township manager? Any other comments from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 11.8, update discussion of possible action relative to deer and Canadian goose population control.
Yeah, so in your packet, we met with USDA Fish and Wildlife, well, not Fish and Wildlife, but we met with the USDA related to deer calling and control, with also related to the geese population issue. If I could have you go ahead and pull that document up real quick, I would appreciate it. So when they started talking, when we started meeting with them, I know that the idea was, what would we do? It was way more involved than I originally understood what it was going to take. I thought we were just going to say, go out here and do this and tell them to go do it. You can't just do that. They have to go out. They have to do a study, determine how many deer we have in the township. They need to do that over a couple nights. It involves, they have a police officer go with them. And that's part of the process, or at least somebody from the township to drive the truck while they do the counting. And then, so that's that first part. And so, so to create the survey and conduct the two, that would be that 39, I think it's 3933, if my eyes can see that correctly. The second part is an organize and administrator an archer's hunting program. That would be our hunting program on township parks and private property. The idea there is that you have to have a hunting program that you offer before they'll come in and do their part. And their part would be coming in and actually doing a hunt that USDA does. And if we do a USDA hunt, they have to get approval from Fish and Wildlife, and they only can get that if the township has a hunting program. What they've told me is if we put a hunting program together, we make it an archery hunting program, that probably the first year we'll have a handful of folks show up and say they want to do it. And then by the end of that year, nobody will have done very much. We probably won't have had a big change. We'll have killed probably a handful of deer. And then going into the future, they would be able to go back and say, yes, we've had a hunting program. It was not very successful. They need to reduce X number because they did the survey. And based on that, they could go back to Fish and Wildlife and get a permit, because they would need a permit. And then that would be a number that they would give us, that would be a cost to go out and do that. That cost, their recommendation would be that it would be a repeating kind of thing. It would be done every year, and kept on a kind of like a maintenance basis. They view it almost like maintaining the control of geese. If you don't kind of keep doing it, the deer are just going to come back. And so their comment was, if you're not really committed to doing that, that this probably isn't the right program for you. But that's how they would recommend it. And that's what they would say. That they won't know until they've done the two surveys. And we've done the first year's archery hunting, that we won't know what they think they would need to come in and do. Because if we're wrong and we get a lot of hunters who want to go out and do that, that may be all that we need. But they would run the program for that price. We would not. They would do all the training. They would make sure everybody's safe. They would do all the background checks. They would do all of those things.
That's the, sorry.
That's the 12,000.
Is that every year, that 12,000, or is
That
that
would be
the plan?
That would be, for the first year to get us to the spot where they would then be able to say, yes, we have enough to justify going back to Fish and Wildlife to actually get a permit for USDA to come in and do it going forward. It's a very different kind of hunt when they do it. They come in, they set up traps. I say traps, they set up bait stations around the township. And then they hunt those bait stations over a period of time. When they do that, there is a requirement that a police officer go with them because they're going to go in, they're going to come in with rifles. They're going to be shooting. There will be, even though there's silencers on it, you will still hear the rifle going off. And so if there's a call comes in that there's shots being fired, we want to have an officer with them who can say, yes, there's an officer there. So there is a township investment, but that can't happen until after we have a hunting program that we've determined whether it's successful or not. And if the hunting program's not successful, that's when they can go back to Fish and Wildlife and get permission to go forward. That cost is an ongoing yearly cost, is what they would recommend. And I will tell you that cost was 30 to 200,000. Am I right? 30 to 200,000. So if we're looking at this, I think you need to understand that we would need to come up. I think it would be more expensive in the beginning years. The way he talked is that you would have a much bigger kills the first couple of years, and then you would get the deer population down into a manageable range, and then you're just maintaining the deer population going forward.
Do we know what, sorry, do you have any other questions?
No,
Do we know what surrounding municipalities are doing? Like, I would suspect this is not just an issue
There's,
to Newtown Township.
and that was actually my question, because I said, you go do this, what keeps the deer from coming over from the park after we've done all this, and he said nothing. But we do know Radnor's doing a similar program. My understanding is Radnor is actually doing this program that I presented to you. I think there's 5 municipalities in the local area, I think that they said they were doing right now. I don't remember all 5. I know Radnor was one of them.
Let me ask you this question. Do you, from a staff perspective, need any more information? The reason why I'm asking this is, is there more information that you all need to do to come to us with a recommendation? Like, is there one that you prefer over the other that you might need like a couple more days to look at, or you like, where are you?
I don't think so. I think that from our standpoint, he came in and told us we could run our own program. Chris and I talked about that for about 2.5 minutes and said, we are not interested in running our own program. We don't want the liability of making a determination whether a hunter has the skill to go out and do this wisely or not. We would want somebody who's going to go in and do all the things that they do. They do background checks. They make sure the hunter has the skill. I mean, you don't want me shooting an arrow anywhere near anybody. I mean, well, I'm not terrible at it, but I don't know that I want to be going like this, aiming at a deer. I mean, that's just me. Okay. But there are people who are really good at that, and, people who could judge whether somebody has that skill. So that would be the key, there. Our recommendation would be to take this step and see where it leads us. If we ended up with a program where enough residents came in and said they wanted to do the archery hunt, we may be able to address it. I'm guessing that's not really going to change the deer population very much, because everything I'm hearing is that we're overcrowded in that. But the question is, then do we make the next step? That's a bigger piece, and that piece we won't know until we get the survey done and we know the information from the survey.
All right, what's the board's desire?
So can we do this? I'm sorry.
No, you go first.
So can we just do the survey first and then see what the survey says? And then go to the.
It feels like a game show, doesn't it?
Survey says, I'm not Steve Harvey. I can't,
Yeah.
I'm not as quick-witted as he is. Can we commit to the first and then go to the second, or do we have to commit to both?
No, we can, actually, we would want to commit to the first now. They
Yeah.
would like to do, the hunting season has kind of come to an end. And they would like to do the surveys now to get a feel of where everything is. And then hopefully we would get those back pretty quickly. And then you could make a decision about whether you wanted to move forward.
Okay.
They will, I'll be perfectly honest, going and doing this, there will be people who are not happy with this process. We felt like this was, if what we looked into of the ways to do it, we felt like this gave the township the most protection. Using a group that this is what they do.
Uh-huh. They're the professionals.
They're the professionals.
Yeah.
For our police department to have to go through and decide who should be able to hunt and who
No.
shouldn't, or for us to figure out who in town has that skill, it was too much. We saw
The
this too risky.
liability is just too
Yes.
great with
That
that.
was that's why this is being presented to you. We felt like this was the best way of what we understood it as methods to go. If you want to go forward, if you don't want to do deer calling, then we would say that,
And
we're
don't
okay
think
as
you-
well.
I mean, by doing this isn't saying that we're committing to that.
This just gets you the survey and lets
You
you
get
know
the
whether or not
information, it might not even be what everyone thinks it is.
that's true.
So, it may be a concentration of deer somewhere, and it may not, we don't know what we don't know.
That's
right?
correct. They do it by heat sensing. I mean, it's pretty amazing what he showed me how they do it. So they'll have a pretty good accurate count.
Mhm.
Any other comments from the board?
No,
I would make
I'll
one,
just-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I'll just say, I'm fine with doing the survey, like you suggested. I'm leaning toward not really going forward with the program. It just doesn't sound like it's, anyone has any confidence that it's gonna make a huge difference and spend money to do it, but.
Well, I will say, I think it makes a difference if we go all the way.
Right.
I think it will make a difference. I'm just not sure you're ready to go all the way and whether it's that big of an issue. I think the survey will tell us how many deer we have per acre, and then we can make a decision.
I think we just need to know because we don't know what we don't know.
And the only other thing I would make note is they were looking for data about how many deer situations we have where deers hit cars and things like that. We don't track it that way. So Chris has now changed the system to actually track it
Okay,
that
good.
way so
Okay.
that we're collecting that data.
Makes sense.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to, I even forgot what we're talking about. To authorize, right? Is it, will authorize the township manager to create a deer survey route and conduct 2 deer density surveys? Well, not the township manager won't do that, but have
I might.
the USDA as per their proposal of January 31st to create a deer survey route and conduct 2 deer density surveys at a cost of $3,933.43.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts, Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Is there any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Section 12, old business.
So we didn't discuss the geese.
Oh,
So
I
I
was
just-
gonna ask you about the geese.
So I want to discuss the geese real quick. The geese section is actually a little different. They have a program that's actually kind of like a full year round program. It involves some of what our current person is doing, but it also goes more in, they get in and they do something to the eggs,
They grease the eggs.
grease the eggs. They
Let me ask
do.
you this question. Why would we change based off of what the guy that we're currently using?
Yeah, the 2 reasons. One is that we continue to have the geese problem that we have. This year, he would focus throughout several places in the township. He wouldn't just focus, like, right now, we're focused at Drexel Lodge. He would do both locations for us, particularly Greer Park, I was gonna say Gable and I got the wrong one, but Greer Park and Drexel Lodge continuing. He would also look over at, Brookside, where we're starting to have a problem there. I'm not sure why we have a problem at Brookside. There's no body of water, but we got geese. So that would be the reason. I'm happy for us to put this one on hold to next meeting. I just wanted you to know it was on your agenda. I'd like to do a little bit more work with George on this one anyhow.
Sounds good.
Talk about some other options. If you're okay, we'll do that and we'll come back. If we think this is the best answer, we'll present that to you. But because it was on here, I wanted to be clear that we weren't acting on that tonight.
These would have just been, I'm sorry, I don't want to belabor this, but if we do anything else with these geese, it's only on our parklands, right?
That is
It's not-
correct.
It's not like at 252 and Charles Ellis where the residential
We're not
properties are.
taking on somebody else's geese problem.
Okay. I mean, the one does it fine. It's the other one. It's those stacked townhouses. That's a mess, but
Yeah.
okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Neese.
Old business is
Again,
over
now we're
like-
on to old business, section 12.1. Consider approving the changes to the resolution 2023-26 RCSH Operations LLC liquor license transfer. The seller of the liquor license has changed. My understanding is that it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, the only change is who's selling the liquor license to the organization, and you're just supporting that the
No.
fact that.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Section 14, resolutions of legislation in action, 14.1. Consider approving resolution 2024-08, modify resolution 2021-15, which will update meeting frequency relative to the Finance Committee. Supervisor Roberts Lightcap.
I'd like to make. The Finance Committee does not need to meet monthly to achieve its responsibilities. This resolution modifies Resolution 2021-15, and whereas the committee shall meet quarterly or more often as needed and will be public, in which records are kept and made public. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors modifies the Newtown Township Finance Committee. That's my motion.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Mr. Neese, do you want to opine on this?
Yeah, the only thing I would just say is, it's really just, there's times that the Finance Committee doesn't really need to meet, or they've had times where we've been unable to meet, and this would keep them from having to meet if there was nothing pressing. The way the original ordinance was written, or original resolution was written, said is they would meet monthly. This just gives them the option, if they don't need to meet monthly, not to.
Perfect. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We'll move down to section 16, board comment. Is there any board comment? Section 17, public comment. If there's any members of the public who have anything to say, please come over to the podium, state your name and address for the record. All right, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.